Okay. You live in my dream state. We look in my fantasy.
The year is 2025, a year that many thought would bring a sense of normalcy after years of political turbulence. Yet, here we are, facing another monumental legal battle. Donald Trump, a name synonymous with political upheaval, is once again at the center of a legal storm engulfing the nation. His presence in the courtroom is a stark reminder of the controversies that have followed him throughout his career. This time, the battleground is the highest court in the land, the Supreme Court of the United States. The stakes couldn't be higher as the justices prepare to hear arguments that could redefine the scope of presidential power. Trump, in a move echoing his tumultuous presidency, is challenging a lower court's ruling that clipped the wings of presidential power. His legal team argues that the decision undermines the authority vested in the executive branch. The case revolves around the firing of a federal agency head, igniting a fiery debate about the limits of executive authority. This decision could set a precedent for how future presidents exercise their power. This isn't just another legal tussle, it's a high-stakes showdown with the potential to reshape the balance of power in America. The implications of this case extend far beyond the courtroom, touching the very fabric of American democracy. The Supreme Court, already deeply polarized, is tasked with navigating a constitutional minefield. Each justice's decision will be scrutinized, as the nation looks to them for guidance in these uncertain times. Their decision could have far-reaching consequences, not just for the Trump legacy, but for the future of the presidency itself. The balance of power between the branches of government hangs in the balance. The nation watches with bated breath as the courtroom becomes a stage for a clash of ideologies. The outcome of this case could redefine the boundaries of executive power for generations to come. On one side, Trump's legal team argues for an expansive view of presidential authority, harking back to the days of unchallenged executive power. They claim that the president must have the ability to act decisively in the nation's best interest. On the other, opponents raise the specter of tyranny, warning of the dangers of an unchecked presidency. They argue that without proper checks and balances, the very foundation of American democracy is at risk. At the heart of this legal maelstrom lies the name of federal agency, a government body responsible for briefly explain the agency's function and importance. This agency, tasked with elaborate on the agency's role, found itself thrust into the center of a constitutional crisis when Trump moved to dismiss its head. The president's actions, seen by critics as a blatant power grab, set off a chain of events that culminated in the current Supreme Court showdown. The name of federal agency, once a relatively obscure entity, became a household name as the drama unfolded. Its functions, previously understood only by policy wonks and experts, were suddenly the subject of national debate. The agency's role in explain a specific example of the agency's impact on people's lives underscored the high stakes of the legal battle. Trump's decision to fire the agency head, a move unprecedented in the agency's history, sent shockwaves through the organization. Employees, unsure of their futures, watched anxiously as the legal battle played out. The agency's ability to carry out its mission, already facing challenges, was further hampered by the uncertainty and turmoil. The lower court's ruling delivered a stinging rebuke to the Trump administration, sending shockwaves through the legal community and beyond. In a strongly worded decision, the court sided with those who argued that Trump had overstepped his constitutional authority in firing the agency head. The ruling, hailed as a victory for the rule of law, sent a clear message: even the president is not above the law. The court's reasoning centered on explain the specific legal basis for the lower court's ruling, for example, a specific statute or legal precedent. The judges meticulously dissected the arguments presented by both sides, ultimately concluding that the president's actions were not in line with established legal principles. The ruling, far from a narrow decision, had broad implications for the balance of power between the executive and other branches of government. The lower court's decision was not without its critics. Supporters of Trump's expansive view of presidential power decried the ruling as judicial overreach, accusing the judges of legislating from the bench. They argued that the court had misinterpreted the Constitution, substituting its own judgment for that of the democratically elected president. Section 4. Trump's argument: unfettered power of the presidency. Trump's legal team, in their appeal to the Supreme Court, doubled down on their argument for an expansive view of presidential power. They emphasized that the president must have the ability to act swiftly and decisively, without being bogged down by layers of bureaucracy and red tape. They painted a picture of a president hamstrung by bureaucratic obstacles, unable to effectively lead the nation. According to them, these constraints not only hinder the president's ability to govern, but also jeopardize national security and the efficient functioning of the executive branch. Their central claim: the president has the inherent authority to remove any executive branch official, including agency heads, at any time and for any reason. This, they argued, is a fundamental aspect of the separation of powers, ensuring that the executive branch remains under the president's control. They argued that this power is essential for the president to fulfill their constitutional duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. Without this authority, the president would be unable to ensure that the executive branch operates efficiently and in accordance with their vision. Allowing a lower court to restrict this power, they warned, would set a dangerous precedent, undermining the president's ability to govern effectively. Such a restriction could lead to a fragmented executive branch with officials acting independently of presidential directives. Their arguments resonated with those who believe in a strong, decisive executive. Supporters of this view argue that a powerful presidency is necessary to navigate the complexities of modern governance and to respond to crises swiftly. Supporters of Trump's position argued that the lower court's ruling would create a bureaucratic morass, hindering the president's ability to implement their agenda. They contended that such a ruling would embolden unelected officials to defy presidential directives, leading to inefficiency and gridlock. They claimed that the president, as the only official elected by the entire nation, must have the authority to shape the executive branch in a way that reflects the will of the people. This, they argued, is essential for maintaining democratic accountability and ensuring that the government remains responsive to the electorate's needs and desires. Section 5. The counter: restraining executive overreach. Opposing Trump's sweeping claims, a coalition of legal scholars, former government officials, and advocacy groups rallied to defend the lower court's ruling. They believed that the president's actions were not just a matter of policy, but a fundamental threat to the constitutional order. They presented the Supreme Court with a starkly different view of presidential power, one rooted in the principle of checks and balances. This principle, they argued, was essential to maintaining the integrity of the nation's democratic institutions. They argued that granting the president unchecked authority to fire agency heads would undermine the very foundations of American democracy. Such power, they contended, could lead to a dangerous erosion of the separation of powers. Their arguments centered on the dangers of concentrating too much power in the hands of a single individual. They emphasized that the framers of the Constitution had intentionally dispersed power to prevent any one person or branch from becoming too powerful. They pointed to the potential for abuse, warning that an unfettered president could easily transform independent agencies into tools of political retribution. This, they warned, could lead to a chilling effect on the agency's ability to operate impartially and effectively. They argued that Congress, through its power to create and fund agencies, must have a say in who leads them. This legislative oversight, they maintained, was a crucial check on executive power. They reminded the court that the Constitution was designed to prevent tyranny, not enable it. The framers had crafted a system that required cooperation and compromise among the branches of government. They argued that the Founding Fathers, deeply skeptical of concentrated power, had deliberately created a system of checks and balances to prevent any one branch of government from becoming too dominant. This system was meant to ensure that power would be shared and that no single entity could wield it unchecked. Allowing the president to unilaterally remove agency heads, they claimed, would upset this delicate balance, tilting the scales of power dangerously in favor of the executive branch. Such a shift, they warned, could have long-lasting implications for the health of American democracy.